Hi guys, welcome to Origin. So clearly the whole gender issue, social justice discussion isn't going anywhere. It's dominated the conversation for the last few years, really. I've had differing opinions on that. I didn't see value in the discussion before, and I've come round to the idea that there is some value, but there needs to be a much better discussion. I've discussed that in my video, Feminism and Islam, a better discussion. But that, well, there doesn't seem to be any signs of that better discussion actually happening. And simply put, it's never going to happen unless we start to see people on, well, whatever side you happen to be on, people need to generally see people on the other side as actual human beings with their own opinions, rather than just as, you know, someone belonging to a label. And that's the intended goal of this video. I'm calling it a social justice profile. Basically, I've got 15 questions that I would like people on all sides of the discussion to answer, ideally in a video, but you can do it in a blog or whatever suits you best. And, you know, I've tried to make it fairly comprehensive. There's 15 questions. I didn't want to put too many, obviously. Too many questions ends up in a half an hour long video, and that can very easily happen. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'll outline the questions, and well, I'll say anything else I might need to say at the end of the video. But let's just get to it. First question. Do you believe in gender equality, and how would you define the term? Number 2. Is inequality okay if these inequalities generally balance each other out? So I've written down an example here. Let's say that all fields are 50-50 gender representation, but let's say the fire service is maybe men 90%, women 10%. Whereas nursing staff is, 10% men, 90% women. Is that okay, or does every field need to be 50-50? Third question. Is there a patriarchy, and how do you personally define the term? And the reason I've phrased it like that is I think a lot of the disagreement when it comes to these types of issues is mainly semantic. So if people know exactly what you're talking about when you say the word patriarchy, whether you're for or against it, that would help to, I guess, solve one or two of the communication difficulties in that discussion. And there's a few more like that, so I've tried to put them all together. So the fourth one is there a rape culture? And how do you personally define that term? Again, I think that's the same idea. 5. Is rape dealt with in your country fairly, in your view? And if not, what could be improved? You hear all the time about how, well, the prosecution rate of rape cases is terrible, but then there's also people who want to suspend innocent until proven guilty, and there's varying opinions on that. Where do you stand on that issue? Number 6. This is to deal with, I guess, your opinion to offensive jokes. Is there a topic that's simply too serious, too painful, too loaded in baggage to joke about? Why or why not? 7. What is your opinion on trigger warnings and safe spaces? This has come up a lot quite recently. I don't think I've actually said anything about that, but of course I'll be answering these questions as well, so you have that to look forward to if you like. Number 8. What is your opinion on the wage gap discussion? again, carefully phrased because there's the wage gap issue is incredibly complicated. There's the concept of the absolute wage gap, but then the studies that explain the nuances behind it, and there's a whole discussion to be had there. What is your opinion on that? Question number 9. What is your opinion on privilege? Fairly straightforward. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Question 10. Again, fairly straightforward. What is your opinion on LGBTQ plus issues? And obviously, there's lots of different. I've heard LGBTQIAA, and there's lots of different letters that can be added on. I don't want to exclude any particular group, but it's just, I guess sexual and gender minorities is a term I've heard before. So, what's your opinion on that? In the issues they face. Question 11. What is the best way to deal with prejudice, and how common is it in society today? I'm not even going to get started on that one because it's just a massive discussion. 12. What is the biggest misconception people have about you and your attitude to these issues? Obviously, as I said before, very kind of balkanized, other side is the enemy based discussion. Misconceptions always happen. You're probably treated as a label if you're interested in this video, and probably seeking to do something about that. So when people, I guess, speak to you, what do they automatically assume about you based on what you, based on the label you associate with, I guess? And what is your actual opinion on those issues rather than just the label? I guess also, where do you, how do you think differently to people who generally associate with that label, I guess? 13. Have you had significant personal experience of any of the issues raised in the previous questions? And how has it affected how you think about these issues? Obviously, this is dealing with maybe traumatic things that have happened to people, and obviously this is a very sensitive discussion. I expect a lot of, I don't know how many people are going to end up responding to this, but certainly if anyone has been quite badly affected by some of these issues, they're probably not going to want to go into detail, but however comfortable you feel talking about your own personal experience of the issues, that can go a long way to explaining why you think about these issues, and it can also help other people understand where they're coming from, where you're coming from. So it's enormously beneficial when dealing with other people in a discussion if they know that about you. Question 14. Give me an example of someone whose thoughts on these types of issues you have a lot of respect for, and why. You never form these opinions in a vacuum. Who do you look up to in terms of people who talk about these issues, basically? And the last question, this is one of those hole filler questions designed to account for the limitations of the number of questions I can ask here. So it's very simply 15. Do you have any further thoughts on these issues not covered by the previous questions? Anything you think I've not mentioned but you really need to get off your chest, isn't talked about a lot, is yes, the discussions got particularly nasty over, or just in general gets neglected. Anything at all, feel free to take the time to talk about that. I will be making my own version of this profile at some point today. and that will be before I upload this video, because in the past I've posed hypotheticals like this and said I'll answer it at some point in the future, but I've either lost interest or the replies have made me, reconsider the premise or something like that. To avoid that happening, I'm not even going to upload this video until I've shot my response. So when you're seeing this, there is a version of, I've shot a response, and it will definitely be being uploaded at some point in the future, probably 2 or 3 days after this one. I don't want to bombard you with videos after I've been relatively absent, I guess, recently. But yeah, there you go. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.